Hello everybody, welcome to Epoch 244. A little bit late because I was working on a feature that I'll show you today. And yeah, let's get into it. So this is the state of the network as usual. Let's see, turn on the individual relays like we like to do. That's that. And we can look at the staking changes as usual. I think I figured out one thing that's a little bit weird. There seems to be the reason this Mexico dot keeps appearing and disappearing, and also this DC thing, which might be the reason why we get some other weird fluctuations. It could be that the servers that are how do you say, that are running the relays that are on a DNS, they kind of, I'm resolving differently every time. So if you look at this Mexico dot, right, it kind of appears and disappears every other epoch or so. Right here, let's start at the beginning. In the first epoch, Mexico is there. Mexico is not there. Mexico is there. Mexico is not there. Mexico is there, not there again. Not there again. And Mexico is there again. And it's quite a bit of stake, and I actually think it's one particular or a few particular, I think it's just one stake pool that's kind of flopping back and forth in what my script is resolving as the IP, depending on the relay that I'm given. When I resolve that DNS, I get a different location for it every time. So I might have to write a slightly more intelligent script. Currently, I'm just taking, the first IP that comes back from DNS, but I might have to like pull that several times and get back several different IPs so that I can more accurately build this map up. Next thing that is actually the new feature is there was some discussion on in the stake pool operator group about whether or not the way I'm calculating stake density is useful or not. So just to clarify, this central cell color, which I'm calling stake density, that is generated by taking the total stake a pool has, dividing that number by the number of relays that are registered on chain, and then each relay gets a portion of the stake pool's total stake. But I know that's not really representative, because if that pool goes down, that stake is still represented someplace else. And so there was a discussion about that's not the best way of doing things. So what I've added in and also kind of changed is this regional level visualization, which is done just by every relay gets the total stake of the pool it's registered to. So the difference between these two visualizations is in stake density, technically each relay, if you add up all the stake assigned to each relay, it should be the same as what is registered, or as the amount of ADA that is staked on the blockchain, right? Because we're not double counting. But in this visualization is more about the redundancy of the network, and maybe not redundancy of the network, but more about like, yes, this much ADA is represented in this region. And just because you have a relay in New York, if you also have a relay in Tokyo, you're gonna have your stake represented in both regions fully. So I kind of like this as well. And also, as you can see, I've basically drastically reduced the granularity, because I think this is actually a more useful visualization for comparing regions to one another. So let me just turn on the comparison mode. Right, in this mode, what we can do is we can compare New York to the Frankfurt zone. right? Or it's now not Frankfurt, it's like Central European. So I think the previous level was pretty good at capturing like city level and, you know, thereby kind of like data center, you know, type things. Like you could see the AWS Frankfurt hub on that kind of map. But here we can kind of more compare the regions like I was talking about in the last video. So we can see that the most populated or most staked part of South America versus the kind of most staked part of South Africa or the African continent. I think this is including Spain in its region. So you might be asking why all these hexes look so wonky and why even I think there might be a pentagon someplace. Right there on the Korea zone. This visualization is built using an open source Uber library called H3, which is similar to Google's way of, if you ever looked at an address on Google Maps, they kind of break it down into a like a alphanumeric code that, you know, if you chop off digits, you get a more and more general area. So this H3_0 is an H3 location at resolution 0, and it has that value. So one thing I wanted to do too here is, you know, I think we started doing this last time as well, is if we set this color to not be percentage based, but just absolute value based, which I actually might make the default for this visualization. Keep the other one the other way and this one this way. This way you can kind of really see how much ADA is staked in each region, and it gives a really different picture about how the network is kind of centralized, right? So in here, we can compare let's compare a bunch of regions to the Central European one, right? Let's flip that over. So London or Northwestern Europe versus this, you know, the zone that has Frankfurt in it. We can see there's 283 relays versus 975 in Frankfurt. And we can see there's 186% more stake in this Frankfurt zone than there is in London. So let's check out New York versus, you know, here it's not as bad, but you can see, you know, that from my perspective, the network really could use more pool operators, operating infrastructure outside of this region, as well as, you know, delegators. There's two ways this problem could actually be solved. Delegators could move their stake out to pools that, you know, had infrastructure in other places as well. Or pool operators could add relays outside of this region, right? Does that make sense? So, and to be explicit, in this visualization, pool operators are not penalized for having, or the network is not penalized for having a relay in Frankfurt. You can have a relay in Frankfurt, just also have a relay someplace else, right? And I would expect that Frankfurt should be kind of so densely pretty densely populated, because I've read it's kind of like the internet hub of Europe, which kind of makes sense. But I would expect it to be a little bit more in line with, you know, Tokyo or New York or, I don't know, other kind of internet hubs around the world. So that's all I have for Epoch 244. Hope it's useful, and yeah, like and subscribe and share if this is interesting to you. Comment down below. Cheers. Bye-bye.